Take a slow, deep breath and imagine yourself in a tranquil room. The lights are dim and the only sounds are the gentle rustle of a breeze and your own breathing. Let the calm sink in as we begin a long, winding story that will take us through the life of Neymar da Silva Santos Jr. This narrative is designed to help you relax and drift into sleep. As you listen, your mind may wander or even gently doze off, and that is perfectly fine. The words will continue to flow softly, carrying you along Neymar's journey from a tiny hospital room in Brazil to the grand stages of world football and back again. There are no abrupt turns, no shouting crowds here, only the steady rhythm of a ball against pavement and the quiet heartbeat of a story unfolding. Neymar da Silva Santos Jr. was born at dawn on February 5, 1992 in Mogi das Cruzes, a bustling city east of Sao Paulo. His mother, Nadine da Silva, remembers that the night before his birth, heavy rain fell across their neighborhood, drumming on the tin roof of their modest home. She and her husband, Neymar Santos Sr., a former semi-professional footballer, prayed together by candlelight. They chose to name their son after his father, hoping that the child might inherit not only his father's name, but also his passion for the beautiful game. The Santos family was not wealthy. They lived with extended relatives in a small house where the smell of fried garlic and rice filled the air, and children's laughter echoed in the narrow hallways. In Brazil, where football is more than a sport, but rather a language, a religion, a way of life, boys often learn to dribble before they learn to walk. Neymar was no exception. Even as an infant, he was drawn to round objects, rolled socks, tomatoes, coins. By the time he could crawl, he would chase after anything that rolled. At family gatherings, his aunties giggled as he kicked empty soda cans around the dirt yard, and his grandfather would say that the boy's feet seemed to have a magnetic attraction to anything spherical. Those early sensations, shifting weight, controlling a ball, feeling the coarse earth beneath his feet, would shape the rhythm of his future. Shortly after Neymar's birth, the family decided to move to Praia Grande, a coastal city south of Sao Paulo. They hoped the slower pace and lower cost of living would provide a better environment for their children. The town sits between the Atlantic Ocean and a backdrop of lush hills. In the poor neighborhood of Jardim Glória, where they settled, children played football in the streets wearing flipper-flops or sometimes barefoot, dodging stray dogs and potholes. The scent of the sea mixed with the smell of cooking beans and wood smoke. Many households, including the Santoses, depended on inconsistent pay and the sense of community to survive. Neymar Sr. worked odd jobs, installing air conditioners, painting, and coaching local amateur teams, while Nadine cleaned houses, sold homemade pastries, and sewed clothes for neighbors. Money was always tight, and there were months when they had to choose between paying the electricity bill and buying enough food. On nights when the lights were cut off, Nadine would light candles. She always made sure her children's homework was done, encouraging them to study under the flickering light. Yet there was always space for joy. The family gathered around the table to share meals, celebrate birthdays, and talk about dreams. When Neymar turned 5, his father bought him a makeshift ball made of rags and tape. He was so thrilled that he slept with it under his pillow. In these early years, the boy learned that even when material things were scarce, love and laughter could make any house feel like a palace. Neymar's father was the first to introduce him to futsal, the fast-paced indoor version of football played with a smaller, heavier ball. On Saturdays, he would take his son to watch local games in a dusty gym with faded wooden floors. Neymar's eyes would widen as players executed flicks, spins, and lightning-quick passes. Futsal rewards tight control and creativity, and playing in small spaces forces players to make decisions quickly. Neymar Sr. believed that this training would shape his son's technique and awareness. During the week, they practiced dribbling and passing in the courtyard behind their house, using chalk lines to mark goals. Neymar's first coach outside the family was Bettinho, a futsal coach who noticed the boy's balance and fluid movement at a beach match when he was 6 years old. Bettinho later said that what struck him was not just the boy's skill, but his jingaan innate rhythm that seemed to animate his hips and shoulders. Neymar played barefoot on sand and asphalt, learning to adapt his touch to different surfaces. He often played with older children who would push and challenge him. When he fell, he sprang back up, his knees dusty but his smile wide. His father did not scold him for losing. Instead, he encouraged him to try again, to improvise, to enjoy the ball. "My father has been by my side since I was little," Neymar later said. That presence was both mentorship and shield. Knowing that his father believed in him gave Neymar the confidence to take risks on the pitch and to dream beyond the walls of Jardim Gloria. As he grew older, Neymar would spend entire afternoons playing with neighborhood friends. They set up makeshift tournaments in vacant lots, using shoes or bricks as goalposts. Older boys taught him feints and stepovers, and he would practice them until his ankles ached. Occasionally, they made a trek to Praia Grande's beach. There, with the ocean wind whipping at their clothes, they played volleyball with their feet and improvisational games that combined capoeira movements with football. These sessions were more than play. They honed his reflexes and improved his understanding of how to manipulate his body in space. After each game, he would run home with sand still clinging to his legs. Nadine would insist he shower, then she would feed him rice, beans, and sometimes grilled fish when they could afford it. The boy ate voraciously, always hungry after hours of sprinting and dribbling. At school, Neymar struggled to sit still. Teachers noted his boundless energy and occasional daydreaming. When asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, he replied without hesitation, "A footballer, like my father." With a smile, his teacher wrote those words next to his name in the margin of a notebook, a small prophecy for a boy with big dreams. In 1999, when Neymar was 7, his parents enrolled him at Portuguesa Santista, a youth club in the nearby city of São Vicente. The drive required sacrifices, long bus rides and early mornings, but the family believed that joining a structured youth program would take his talents to the next level. At Portuguesa, he trained 3 times a week under coaches who emphasized discipline and ball control. The pitches were uneven and sometimes muddy, but the facilities were still better than the makeshift courts in Jardim Gloria. Neymar quickly stood out among players his age. His dribbling and finishing attracted attention from other clubs. He was small for his age, but he compensated with agility and balance. Coaches praised his ability to move through tight spaces and to change direction quickly. When he cut through defenders during scrimmages, his teammates would stop and applaud. To reward his progress, his father occasionally took him to watch professional matches at Santos's Vila Belmiro stadium. Sitting in the stands, little Neymar would gaze at the giant scoreboard and the sea of fans waving black and white flags. He imagined what it would feel like to step onto that field wearing the famous white kit. Between these fantasies and reality lay years of hard work, but the seeds of ambition had been planted. By 2003, the dream of playing for Santos came closer to reality when Neymar joined their renowned youth academy. The move to the city of Santos meant leaving behind friends and familiar streets, but the family saw it as an investment. Santos's academy was known for producing icons like Pelé, Robinho, and Diego. Neymar was only 11, yet he immediately impressed coaches with his quick feet and fearless dribbling. Though he earned a modest stipend, the money helped his family pay bills and improved their quality of life. The club provided him with boots, training gear, and meals, luxuries for a child who had grown up mending old shoes. He attended school in the mornings and trained in the afternoons, following a routine of drills, ball control exercises and scrimmages. There, he formed a close friendship with Paulo Henrique Ganso, a talented playmaker. The two boys complemented each other on and off the pitch. Ganso's vision and passing matched Neymar's speed and finishing. Outside training, they listened to music, exchanged jokes, and dreamed about representing Brazil together. That camaraderie became a source of comfort and motivation. Whenever Neymar felt pressure, he could lean on his friend for advice and laughter. At age 14, Neymar travelled to Spain for a trial with Real Madrid. The club was a galaxy of stars. Zinedine Zidane, David Beckham, Ronaldo and Roberto Carlos trained at Valdebebas. Neymar and his father flew to Madrid with nervous excitement. During the trial, he impressed coaches with his creativity and finishing. Reports later suggested that Real Madrid were ready to sign him immediately. However, the teen grew homesick. He missed Brazilian food, his friends, and the warmth of his family. When he called home, he could hear his mother's voice crack with emotion. Neymar Sr. listened to his son's concerns and decided that it would be better to continue developing at Santos. He needs to mature at home, he argued, believing that his boy would one day move to Europe with greater confidence. In Brazil, the family sat together and weighed the offer. The potential financial benefits were great, but they feared uprooting him too soon. They eventually declined the contract and returned to Santos. Years later, Neymar would describe that decision as pivotal, preserving his childhood and allowing him to develop under less pressure. Staying in Brazil also kept him close to his mother and sister Rafaela, whose presence kept him grounded. In the long run, it allowed him to become the darling of Santos fans, a menino da vila who represented the club's values and style. When Neymar signed his first professional contract with Santos in 2009, at the age of 17, he was ready to embrace a new chapter. The club had prepared him, and he trusted his abilities. On 7 March 2009, he made his professional debut in a match against Oeste. He came on in the second half to a roar from the crowd. The atmosphere was electric, flares burned in the stands, and the supporters chanted his name in unison. Neymar's heart pounded as he stepped onto the pitch. He touched the ball tentatively at first, but soon grew bolder, weaving past defenders and drawing fouls. Though he did not score that day, his presence lifted the team. Only a week later, he scored his first goal for Santos against Mogi Mirim, a deft finish that demonstrated his composure. The joy he felt after that goal was indescribable. He sprinted to the corner flag, leaping into the arms of teammates, and pointed to the heavens in gratitude. That season, he scored 14 goals in 48 games and became an instant favorite with the supporters. He was no longer just a promising youth. He was now one of Santos's main attacking threats, a slender teenager with a dyed blonde streak in his hair and a knack for sensational dribbling. Local newspapers compared him to Robinho and even to a young Pelé, but his coaches reminded him to stay grounded and keep working. He listened intently during video sessions, analyzing his movement and learning from mistakes. Late at night, he still practiced ball control in his bedroom, using a tennis ball to refine his touch. The 2010 season cemented Neymar's reputation as one of Brazil's brightest talents. On 15 April 2010, he scored 5 goals for Santos in an 8-1 rout of Guarani during the Copa do Brasil qualifiers. Each strike displayed a different facet of his ability: a curling free kick, a low shot from outside the box, a clinical tap-in after dribbling past multiple defenders. The crowd at Vila Belmiro sang his name, and fans outside the stadium honked car horns in celebration. The Campeonato Paulista that year saw him net 14 goals in 19 games, leading Santos to the title with a 5-5 aggregate victory over Santo André in the finals. he was voted the competition's best player, a remarkable feat for an 18-year-old. Journalists started drawing parallels between his flair and that of legendary Brazilian forwards. European clubs began to circle. West Ham United made a 12 million bid, and Chelsea offered around 20 million for the teenager. Despite these tempting offers, Santos refused to sell, and Neymar himself said, "I'm focused only on Santos." Behind the scenes, however, there were tensions. During a match against Goianiense in September 2010, manager Neymar Jr asked another player to take a penalty after Neymar had missed a crucial spotter kick earlier in the year. Neymar protested on the pitch, argued with captain Edu Dracena, and turned his back on his coach. The incident made headlines and sparked debate about his attitude. Santos's board sided with the player, sacking Dorival Jr. and reinforcing a perception that Neymar was untouchable. The teenager apologized publicly, acknowledging his mistake. The controversy served as a lesson about humility and respect, teachings his father and mother reiterated at home. Neymar's form continued into the 2011 season, culminating in Santos's first Copa Libertadores triumph since Pele's era. During the tournament he scored 6 goals, including the clinching goal in a 4-3 aggregate win over Cerro Porteño in the semi-finals. In the two-legged final against Uruguay's Peñarol, the first match in Montevideo ended 0-0. At Vila Belmiro, Neymar opened the scoring in the 46th minute after a slick 1-2 with Aruca. He curled the ball past the goalkeeper, sending the stadium into delirium. Santos held on for a 2-1 victory and lifted the trophy amid fireworks and confetti. Neymar was named man of the match, and later won the 2011 FIFA Puskás Award for a solo goal he scored against Flamengo in the Brasileiro Serie A. A stunning run from the halfway line where he dribbled past multiple defenders before slotting home. That year, he was named South American Footballer of the Year, the first of 2 consecutive wins. His fame grew beyond Brazil. International media began to follow his every move. He also extended his contract with Santos until after the 2014 World Cup, receiving a wage increase that mirrored those in Europe. Despite his success, he experienced heartbreak at the FIFA Club World Cup in December 2011. Santos defeated Cachoeiresol in the semi-finals, thanks in part to Neymar's opening goal, but they were crushed 4-0 by Barcelona in the final. Facing the Spanish giants gave Neymar a glimpse of European football's highest level and planted a seed of curiosity about competing in Europe. 2011 also brought significant events off the pitch. In August, Neymar's ex-girlfriend gave birth to his son, Davi Luca. Although he was only 19, Neymar embraced fatherhood with enthusiasm. He visited the hospital with his parents, tears in his eyes as he held the tiny boy for the first time. The world discovered this personal chapter when local media published photos of him cradling his newborn. He chose to keep details about the mother private, emphasizing respect and responsibility. Becoming a father changed his perspective. He felt more mature and motivated to secure his family's future. He later said that hearing Davy's laughter after a long day of training gave him strength and purpose. Off the field, Neymar's image appeared on billboards, magazines, and television commercials. Companies like Nike, Panasonic, and Claro signed endorsement deals with him, and his distinctive mohawk hairstyle and earrings became part of his brand. At times, the attention felt overwhelming. He sought refuge in his faith, attending church with his family on Sundays and reading scripture before matches. He frequently drew a cross on his wrist tape and pointed to the sky after scoring goals. Critics questioned whether fame would distract him, but he used the spotlight to share messages about his values. He invested time and resources into planning the Instituto Projeto Neymar Jr., a social institute near Praia Grande that would later offer educational, cultural, and sports programs to underprivileged children. The Institute's mission to promote social responsibility and discipline mirrored the lessons his parents had taught him. The 2012 season showcased the full spectrum of Neymar's abilities. On 5 February 2012, his 20th birthday, he scored his 100th professional goal against Palmeiras in the Campeonato Paulista. The milestone represented not only his prolific scoring but also his early start. Many strikers do not reach 100 goals until their mid-20s. Later that month, he scored 2 goals and assisted twice in a 6-1 win over Ponte Preta. On 7 March 2012, he recorded a hat-trick against Internacional in a Copa Libertadores group stage match. Each performance drew international attention. Highlight reels of his goals went viral online, sparking debates about when he should move to Europe. Throughout the Campeonato Paulista, he produced braces and hat-tricks, including a memorable treble against Sao Paulo on 29 April. In the 2-legged final against Guarani, he scored twice across both games, leading Santos to a 7-2 aggregate victory and another state championship. He finished the Paulista with 20 goals and was voted best player and best forward. In the Copa Libertadores, he was the joint top scorer with 8 goals, although Santos were eliminated in the semi-finals by eventual champions Corinthians. These feats earned him the Golden Ball, the Arthur Friedenreich Award, and the Armando Nogueira Trophy, among others. By season's end, he had scored 43 goals in all competitions, a testament to his consistency. However, his desire to test himself abroad grew stronger. Off the field in 2012, Neymar continued to cultivate his brand and expand his horizons. He traveled to the United States to attend marketing events and met other athletes who had transitioned successfully to Europe. He followed European leagues closely, studying players like Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Andres Iniesta. At home, he enjoyed simple pleasures, playing video games with friends, attending family barbecues, and driving along the coastal road with the windows down. His relationship with his sister Rafaela deepened. They often posted playful photos together on social media. He gifted her a bracelet with their initials, and she celebrated his goals by wearing a jersey with his number. Despite the glamour, he remained close to his childhood friends. He visited Jardim Gloria often, handing out footballs to neighborhood children and offering words of encouragement. People there still called him Juninho Little Jr. and teased him about his mohawk. Their reminders of where he came from kept him grounded. During quiet nights, he would sit on the porch of his parents' house, listening to the distant sounds of waves crashing and thinking about the road ahead. He knew that leaving Santos would mean leaving behind not only his club, but also his community. The thought weighed heavily on him. In early 2013, rumors about Neymar's future intensified. European scouts attended Santos matches regularly, and newspapers speculated about offers from Barcelona, Real Madrid, Chelsea, and other clubs. When the Campeonato Paulista began, Neymar scored twice in the opening match against São Bernardo and again 4 days later against Botafogo. On 3rd of February, he scored and provided 2 assists in a 3-1 victory over São Paulo. The goals kept coming. On 13 April, he scored all 4 goals in Santos' 4-0 win over União Barbarense, had another disallowed, and hit the post. His agent, Wagner Ribeiro, and father openly discussed a move to Europe after the 2014 World Cup. Neymar admitted that he dreamed of playing for a big European club but insisted he would leave when the time was right. That comment reflected his internal conflict, excitement at the prospect of competing against the best in the world, and sadness at the thought of leaving Santos. As speculation swirled, fans displayed banners pleading with him to stay. On 25 April, his father revealed that he intended to move before the World Cup. It felt like a farewell tour. Neymar still gave his all on the pitch, dribbling past defenders with a freedom that belied the pressure he felt. His last matches for Santos were charged with emotion. On 26 May 2013, before a match against Flamengo at Brasilia's Mané Garrincha Stadium, he stood during the national anthem with tears streaming down his face. He looked up into the stands and saw fans wearing his jersey and waving signs that read, "Stay, Neymar." He whispered a prayer, asking for strength to make the right decision. After the game, he announced that he would join Barcelona, ending months of speculation. The transfer details remained shrouded in secrecy, but he signed a 5-year deal and prepared to play for one of Europe's most storied clubs. His presentation at the Nou Camp on the 3rd of June drew 56,500 fans, a record turnout for a Brazilian player. While some Brazilian supporters felt betrayed, most understood that he needed to challenge himself on a bigger stage. For Neymar, it was both an end and a beginning. He thanked Santos for shaping him and promised to return one day. On the flight to Spain, he stared out the window, reflecting on the path that had led him from a modest house in Praia Grande to the global stage. He thought about his parents' sacrifices, his friends' support, and the countless hours spent practicing in dusty courtyards. Though he was leaving home, he carried its rhythms, flavors, and spirit within him. As the plane ascended, he imagined new goals, new stadiums, and new challenges, but also the comfort of knowing that, in Jardim Gloria, his family would always keep a plate of rice and beans waiting for him. Even before he touched down in Barcelona, Neymar's mind replayed the soundscape of Vila Belmiro, the drums beating, the chants of Santos, Santos, and the commentators' voices rising in excitement. That stadium had been his stage, his classroom, and his canvas for 4 years. Each blade of grass seemed to hold a memory: the first goal against Mogimirim, the celebrations after winning the Campeonato Paulista, the final whistle of the Copa Libertadores. He remembered the way his heart raced when he walked through the tunnel, the smell of freshly cut grass, and the feel of chalk dust on his boots from the pitch lines. The locker room was where he learned to shave, to tie his boots, to respect elders, and to speak with the media. Teammates like Robinho, who briefly returned on loan in 2010, taught him tricks, while veterans like Leo and Edu Dracena offered advice about staying calm under pressure. The coaches at Santos, whether drawing tactical diagrams on whiteboards or showing old footage of Pele, impressed upon him the importance of teamwork and humility. When he faced difficulty, such as the penalty controversy or media criticism for his flamboyant celebrations, he could always retreat to the sanctuary of his family and community. Those intangible lessons prepared him for the scrutiny he would face abroad. Neymar's relationship with his father is central to his story. Neymar Sr. had experienced the precarious life of a lower division footballer and understood both the opportunities and pitfalls of the profession. He served as his son's trainer, manager, confidant, and sometimes shield. When reporters criticized Neymar for diving or arrogance, his father responded in interviews, reminding critics that his son was still young and learning. Behind the scenes, he managed contracts and sponsorship negotiations. Some observers accused him of being too involved, but Neymar often said that he trusted his father implicitly. "My father takes care of my finances and my family. Without him, I don't know what would happen," he told an interviewer. Their bond was more than business. In quiet moments, they watched old videos of Diego Maradona and Ronaldinho analyzing moves. On Sundays, they grilled meat in the backyard and reminisced about Neymar's early games. The father offered tough love when necessary, reminding him to train hard and to respect coaches, but he also encouraged his son's flair. He told him to never lose the joy that made Brazilian football unique. Together, they navigated the complexities of endorsements, media obligations, and professional decisions. This partnership would later come under scrutiny in Europe, but during his Santos years, it was a foundation of stability. Equally important was Neymar's relationship with his mother, Nadine, and his sister, Rafaela. Nadine's warmth balanced the competitiveness of the football world. She cooked favorite meals, rice, beans, grilled chicken, and insisted on family dinners even when Neymar's schedule was hectic. She cleaned his muddy boots when he was young and ironed his jerseys before matches. During tournaments, she prayed for his safety, whispering blessings under her breath as she clutched a rosary. When criticism or rumors surfaced in the press, she reminded her son that external voices did not define his worth. Rafaela, 4 years younger, adored her brother and looked up to him. She learned to braid his hair before matches and often posted supportive messages on social media. In return, Neymar got her name tattooed on his wrist. Their shared laughter and inside jokes provided refuge from the pressures of fame. Whenever he traveled for away games, he would bring souvenirs for Rafaela, bracelets, hats, sweets, sharing pieces of the world with his family. Their unconditional love fortified him during the turbulent seasons that followed. Football at Santos was not just about training and matches, it was about community. Young players like Neymar were part of a network that included groundskeepers, cooks, kit men, and supporters. The club's canteen served feijoada and pastel on Fridays, and players often lingered to chat with staff. After training sessions, boys would stay behind to practice free kicks, while older players offered pointers. They teased each other about hairstyles, danced the samba in the showers, and celebrated birthdays with cakes. The rhythm of life at the Vila Belmiro training complex was both demanding and nurturing. Players were expected to maintain good grades in school, to attend team meetings, and to represent the club respectfully in public. Coaches emphasized not just technical skill, but also values like discipline and teamwork. For Neymar, this environment was formative. It taught him that football is collective creativity. He could not succeed by dribbling alone, but needed to exchange passes, track back in defense, and listen to tactical instructions. At times, he chafed at restrictions. He wanted to show his flair, to dance after goals, but he gradually learned to balance individual expression with collective responsibility. The process of maturing under watchful coaches prepared him for the tactical demands of European football. The intensity of competition in Brazil sharpened Neymar's instincts. In domestic matches, he faced defenders twice his age who employed physicality to stop him. He learned to anticipate tackles and to protect himself by leaping at the right moment. He studied the art of drawing fouls without endangering himself, an approach that fans debated but coaches considered pragmatic. He also developed a keen awareness of referees' tendencies, adjusting his style accordingly. On the training pitch, he and Ganso spent hours practicing 1-2s, quick passes and finishing combinations. They studied each other's movements until their interplay became almost telepathic. In matches, this connection sometimes felt like poetry. When Ganso looked up with the ball at his feet, Neymar knew where to run. When Neymar dribbled down the left wing, Ganso drifted into space for a return pass. Their partnership was central to Santos' success in 2010 and 2011. When Ganso suffered injuries, Neymar felt the absence acutely. It was a reminder that football is a team sport, reliant on the collective health and form of many individuals. Through all these seasons, the noise of speculation about a move abroad never entirely subsided. Clubs from England, Spain and Italy offered millions, and journalists wrote daily about his future. In 2011, Real Madrid and Barcelona reportedly pursued pre-eye contracts, causing Santos president Luis Ribeiro to threaten to report Real Madrid to FIFA. In 2010, West Ham and Chelsea's offers were widely discussed. Each time, Neymar reiterated his commitment to Santos and his desire to continue developing at home. In interviews, he said he dreamt of playing for Barcelona, Real Madrid or Chelsea, but emphasized that he would leave when his heart told him it was time. The interplay of loyalty and ambition created tension. On one hand, he felt indebted to the club and its fans. On the other, he understood that to become one of the world's best, he would need to face the finest defenders, to play in the Champions League and to test himself week after week against Europe's top sides. He shared these conflicted feelings with his father, who listened carefully, weighed offers and counseled patience. They both knew that such decisions had consequences beyond football. Neymar's off-field pursuits revealed his playful personality and entrepreneurial spirit. He loved music and danced with teammates in celebration of goals. He had a particular fondness for pagode and samba. He would often sing along to popular songs in the car. At home, he played video games like Pro Evolution Soccer and FIFA with friends, often choosing to play as Santos or Brazil. He participated in charity matches and visited hospitals to meet sick children, bringing jerseys and hugs. In early interviews, he was shy but friendly, answering questions with a soft voice and a smile. He sometimes wore colorful hats and, at one point, sported bleached blonde hair with shaved sides, a look that became his signature in Brazil. Companies capitalized on his image, and by age 20, he had several major sponsorship deals. While some criticized him for being too commercial, he used part of his earnings to help his parents buy a house and to support relatives. He also started to allocate funds and time toward establishing his institute, which would provide educational and recreational opportunities for children in Praia Grande. Its mission to cultivate commitment, discipline, respect and responsibility mirrored his own journey. As the 2013 Confederations Cup approached, Brazil's national team coach Luiz Felipe Scolari looked to Neymar as a key player. Although the tournament took place after his move to Barcelona had been announced, it served as both his farewell to Brazilian football and his introduction to a global audience. Wearing the iconic yellow jersey, he scored 4 goals and provided several assists, earning the Golden Ball as the tournament's best player. On Brazilian soil, fans chanted his name with pride, momentarily forgetting the club rivalry that had dominated headlines. Neymar felt the weight of expectation, but also the exhilaration of carrying the hopes of the nation. In the final against Spain, he scored a powerful lefty-footed goal and celebrated by sliding on his knees, arms outstretched, eyes closed in gratitude. Brazil won 3-0, and Neymar's performance convinced many doubters that he could indeed rise to the challenges awaiting him in Europe. The tournament also underscored his ability to work within a team of stars, linking up with players like Fred, Oscar and Paulinho. It was a fitting conclusion to his Brazilian chapter. Leaving Santos did not mean leaving Brazil behind. In the months leading up to his departure, Neymar recorded video messages for the children at his institute, telling them to pursue their dreams. He visited the project site, still under construction, imagining classrooms filled with laughter and fields alive with games. He attended a community meeting where he listened to mothers talk about the need for after-school activities to keep children away from drugs and violence. Those conversations reinforced his resolve to invest in social causes. He also visited the beach where he had first trained under Betinho. Standing barefoot on the sand, he watched waves crash and remembered the coach's words about moving like the ocean, fluid and unpredictable. He thanked Betinho for seeing something in him at age 6 and hugged him farewell. In his hometown of Mogi das Cruzes, he visited his grandparents' grave, leaving a bouquet of white roses and whispering gratitude for the sacrifices that allowed him to chase his dreams. At home, he embraced his mother and sister tightly. Nadine made his favorite dessert, brigadeiro, and asked him to promise he would call often. Rafaela teased him about his accent and told him to send her European clothes. They laughed and cried together, understanding that while distance would separate them physically, their bond would remain strong. As he boarded the plane for Barcelona, Neymar wore a black suit and a silver watch, gifts from his father. He carried a small backpack with personal items, a photo of his family, a rosary, a notebook where he wrote down prayers and goals, and a pair of Santos shorts. He looked back one last time at the crowd that had gathered at Guarulhos International Airport. Fans chanted, "Vai, Ney, go Ney, go Ney," and held up banners with hearts. He waved, tears in his eyes. He understood that he was stepping into a new world. In Spain, he would be playing alongside Lionel Messi, a player he had admired since childhood. He would face defenders like Sergio Ramos and Dani Carvajal, adapt to a new language and culture, and adjust to different tactical demands. Yet he felt ready. Years of futsal in cramped gyms, street games on uneven pavement, and professional battles in Brazil had prepared him for this moment. He whispered a prayer. "God, guide me on this new path. Let me honor my family and my country with my work and my humility." With that, he walked down the jet bridge toward a future full of unknowns. Behind him lay the beaches of Praia Grande, the noise of Villa Belmiro, and the embrace of a nation that had watched him grow from a skinny boy with a rag ball to a superstar. Ahead of him stretched the runway to Europe, where new chapters would begin, but he would always carry with him the rhythm of samba, the taste of beans and rice, and the ginga of Brazilian football. Neymar's arrival in Barcelona in the summer of 2003 felt like the next chapter of a fairy tale that had been building since he was a boy playing barefoot on the beaches of Praia Grande. The 21-year-old Brazilian star had already lifted the Copa Libertadores with Santos and dazzled the world with his dribbling, but this move would thrust him into a very different world. Barcelona were one of Europe's most storied clubs, famous for their philosophy of fluid, possession-based football and their reliance on academy graduates. They had also just seen their great talisman Lionel Messi carry the burden of scoring, and there was a feeling the team needed fresh energy. When Neymar announced in May 2013 that he would be joining Barcelona on a 5-year deal, the transfer generated huge excitement. The Camp Nou had been his playground when Santos lost to Barcelona in the 2011 Club World Cup, and now it would be his home. In late May, Santos publicly admitted they had accepted 2 offers for him, and 2 days later he confirmed he had chosen Barcelona. Behind the scenes, the move was complicated and expensive. Barcelona would later pay a fine to Spain's tax authorities over irregularities in the transfer, and the exact fee remained a subject of court disputes for years. But for Neymar, leaving Brazil was about more than money. He spoke of a new challenge and of learning from Messi and Iniesta. He hugged his family at Sao Paulo's airport and boarded a plane to Europe with tears in his eyes. At the Camp Nou, his presentation drew an estimated 56,500 people. The stadium had never seen so many fans for a new signing. They were there for a glimpse of his famous smile and to watch him juggle the ball on the pitch. In the stands, banners in Catalan and Portuguese welcomed him. He giggled nervously, did some tricks, and kissed the badge. The early weeks were about acclimatization. Neymar had grown up playing futsal on concrete courts, and at Santos he had been the free-flowing star around whom everything revolved. In Barcelona, he had to adjust to a new role and to the weight of expectation. He had also lost weight because of illness during the 2013 Confederations Cup, and Barcelona's doctors suggested he might need to build muscle to cope with La Liga's physicality. The club arranged for a nutritionist and personal trainer. In the mornings he went to the Ciutat Esportiva training ground for drills with his new teammates, while in the afternoons he worked on strength exercises. He learned Spanish quickly, though he often retreated to speaking Portuguese with his father and Dani Alves. He looked up to Messi like a big brother, and the Argentine star welcomed him with gentle jokes and a promise that he did not have to prove anything. He just had to be himself. Neymar's first appearance for Barcelona came on 30 July 2013 in a friendly against Lechia Gdańsk. He played just 15 minutes but was cheered every time he touched the ball. A week later, he scored his first unofficial goal in a friendly against a Thai selection. These games may have been pre-season exhibitions, yet for him they were crucial steps in building confidence and understanding the patterns of play expected in Spain. His competitive debut came on 18 August in a 7-0 thrashing of Levante in La Liga. The match was a blur of movement and passing. He was used sparingly, but he assisted a goal and celebrated enthusiastically. Just 3 days later, he scored his first competitive goal in the first leg of the Supercopa de España against Atletico Madrid. The Brazilian rose above defenders to head Dani Alves' cross into the net, securing a 1-1 draw. In the return leg at the Camp Nou, he danced past markers with that familiar jinga, and Barcelona lifted their first trophy of the season. As autumn arrived, Neymar settled into a rhythm. On 18 September, he made his Champions League debut against Ajax, providing a smart cross that Gerard Piqué volleyed into the net. A week later, he scored his first La Liga goal in a 4-1 win against Real Sociedad. On 26 October, he played his first El Clásico, the fiery showdown with Real Madrid at the Camp Nou. Under the lights and with television cameras broadcasting to millions, he controlled a ball from Andrés Iniesta, cut inside, and sent a low shot beyond goalkeeper Diego Lopez. Later, he delivered an inch-perfect pass for Alexis Sanchez to chip over the goalkeeper, and Barcelona won 2-1. The moment electrified the stadium. Not only had he scored and assisted in the biggest game in Spain, but he did so with the grace of someone who seemed born for the occasion. In December 2013, he produced one of his first masterclasses at the European level. Barcelona faced Celtic in the Champions League group stage. Despite his youth, he dominated, scoring a hat-trick in a 6-1 victory. Each goal came from a different facet of his game. One, a composed finish after a slick passing move. Another, a curling shot from the edge of the box. And the third, a delicate chip. The media praised his performance as evidence of his potential to be one of the world's best. In his first season, he finished with 15 goals. But more importantly, he gained invaluable experience. He learned to track back to help Jordi Alba, defend, to press high without losing energy, and to time his runs off Messi's passes. Though Barcelona ended the season without major trophies, they lost the Copa del Rey final to Real Madrid and were eliminated in the quarter-finals of the Champions League. The seeds were planted for something spectacular. The 2014-15 campaign is remembered as one of the great seasons in football, and Neymar was at its heart. Barcelona's new coach, Luis Enrique, instilled a faster, more direct style that complemented the players' talents. Luis Suarez joined from Liverpool in the summer and, after serving a suspension, entered the side in autumn. Together with Messi and Neymar, they formed a front three that would become known as MSN. Their movements were hypnotic, Messi drifting infield to play as a false nine or deep-lying playmaker, Suarez making diagonal runs and pressing defenders, and Neymar hugging the left wing before darting inside. The interplay was so fluid that Reuters journalists wrote that their attacks resembled a set play, Messi to Suarez to Neymar, goal Reuters. Calm defenders struggled to anticipate who would shoot and who would pass. Neymar thrived in this environment. He had matured physically and mentally. No longer the skinny teenager, he had gained muscle and learned to channel his flamboyance into purposeful actions. He also relished the freedom Luis Enrique gave him. The coach encouraged him to express himself, to dribble when he felt like it, but also to link up with his partners. In the Champions League group stage, he scored crucial goals against Paris Saint-Germain and Ajax. In La Liga, he tormented defenders with stepovers and nutmegs. When Messi missed time with a minor injury, Neymar and Suarez carried the attack. They beat Elche 6-0, with Neymar scoring twice, and they won away at Athletic Bilbao, with his curling shot nestling into the top corner. By spring of 2015, the trio's chemistry was unmatched. In the Champions League, Barcelona breezed past Manchester City and then faced Paris Saint-Germain in the quarter-finals. Neymar scored twice in the second leg as Barcelona reached the semi-finals for the 7th time in 8 seasons. Against Bayern Munich in the semi-final, he slotted home 2 goals in the first leg and celebrated with Messi and Suarez as 95,000 fans roared. Their combination play was so ruthless that it left Bayern defenders spinning. Newspapers around the world published diagrams of the triangles they created. In La Liga, Barcelona overtook Real Madrid to top the table. Neymar scored a cheeky back heel against Villarreal and performed a samba dance with Dani Alves in celebration. He also embraced the intangible art of pressing, chasing down opponents to force turnovers. The Copa del Rey final on 30 May 2015 at Madrid's Estadio Vicente Calderón gave him the chance to show his flair on another big stage. Facing Athletic Bilbao, Neymar played with his trademark joy. Midway through the match, Messi embarked on a dribble along the right touchline, weaving past 4 defenders before crossing. Suarez flicked the ball to Neymar, who tapped into an empty net. Later in the second half, Neymar passed the ball between his legs, outrunning the marker and sending a cross for Messi to score. Barcelona won 3-1, and Neymar lifted the Copa del Rey for the first time. He finished as the competition's top scorer. The crowning moment came a week later in the Champions League final at Berlin's Olympiastadion. Barcelona faced Juventus, and tension hung over the match because both teams were chasing a treble. In the first half, Barcelona took the lead through Ivan Rakitic, but Juventus equalized in the second half. Then came a quick counter-attack. Messi dribbled past defenders, Suarez's shot was saved, and Neymar calmly swept the rebound into the net. Later, in stoppage time, he raced the length of the field to slide in the third goal. Reuters described how Barcelona's new direct play allowed Suarez and Neymar's counter-attacks to secure their second treble, and coach Luis Enrique praised Neymar's development, saying he had been spectacular and one of the world's best. The victory meant that Neymar had scored in the finals of both the Copa Libertadores and the Champions League, a unique achievement. He also finished as the joint top scorer in the Champions League and the Copa del Rey that season. When the final whistle blew, he fell to his knees, tears streaming down his cheeks as he thanked his father and God. Later, he celebrated with the Brazilian flag draped over his shoulders, hugging Messi and Suarez while confetti rained down. For Barcelona fans, 2014-15 was a season of magic. For Neymar, it was a coming of age. The next season, 2015-16, brought new challenges. With the high bar they had set, anything less than perfection felt like a disappointment. But football rarely repeats itself exactly. Early in the season, Messi suffered a knee injury that kept him out for 2 months. In his absence, Neymar emerged as the team's leader. He scored a sublime free kick against Rayo Vallecano and followed it up with a 4-goal haul against the same opponent a few weeks later. In the Champions League group stage, he delivered assists from improbable angles. He formed a deadly connection with Suarez, who thrived off his through-balls. Journalists wrote about the duo's telepathic understanding. After one goal, he pointed at Suarez as if to say, "We did this together." Luis Enrique often praised his growth, noting that he had become more consistent in his decision-making. By winter, he was being talked about as a Ballon d'Or contender, finishing third behind Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. Although Barcelona were knocked out of the Champions League by Atletico Madrid, they still won La Liga and the Copa del Rey. During the Copa final against Sevilla, he raced onto a lofted pass from Messi, dribbled past the goalkeeper and rolled the ball into an empty net. As fireworks lit up the night sky, he hugged his teammates and looked relieved. He later said that season taught him to shoulder responsibility and to keep believing when circumstances changed. Off the field, 2015 and 2016 were turbulent. Spanish prosecutors investigated irregularities in his transfer from Santos, alleging that Barcelona and Neymar's family had concealed part of the transfer fee. The club eventually paid a fine to settle tax fraud accusations, and the case cast a shadow over his image. Brazilian authorities also froze some of his assets over alleged unpaid taxes. Though he was never found guilty of criminal wrongdoing, the legal battles were stressful. Journalists speculated about his loyalty to Barcelona and his relationship with the board. His father, who served as his agent, often defended him publicly, insisting that Neymar was committed to the club. At the same time, brands continued to court him. He signed endorsements with global companies, shot commercials, and released a documentary that showed glimpses of his training sessions and family life. By summer 2016, Neymar's contract negotiations became a subject of speculation. Clubs such as Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester United were rumoured to be willing to pay his buyout clause. Barcelona responded by offering him an extension, and in July 2016 he signed a new 5-year contract. The signing ceremony was a reminder of how far he had come. The skinny teenager from coastal Brazil now had a deal that made him one of the highest paid players in the world. He posted a photo of himself signing with a wide grin and wrote that he was very happy to continue living this dream. The season ahead would, however, test his patience. The 2016-17 season began with optimism, yet it would be his last at Barcelona. Early on, he scored decisive goals in La Liga and provided assists in the Champions League. But Barcelona's form was inconsistent, partly because other teams had adapted to the MSN trio. Real Madrid clinched the league, leaving Barcelona trailing. In the Champions League round of 16, they faced Paris Saint-Germain. The first leg in Paris ended in a 4-1 defeat, a result that seemed insurmountable. Critics declared the era of Barcelona dominance over and called for a rebuild. For Neymar, this was personal. He had many friends on the PSG side, and rumours were already swirling that the French club wanted to sign him. After the first leg, he posted a message saying they still believed, even if the odds were small. The return leg on 8 March 2017 at the Camp Nou would become one of the most famous nights in football. The match started with hope. Luis Suarez headed in a goal after just 3 minutes, and an own goal by Levin Kurzawa made it 2-0. Early in the second half, Messi converted a penalty. But when Edinson Cavani scored an away goal for PSG, Barcelona needed 3 more to advance. The clock ticked into the 88th minute with the tie seemingly lost. Then came a sequence that would etch Neymar into Barcelona folklore. He curled a free kick into the top corner, making it 4-1. 2 minutes later, Suarez won a penalty, and Neymar confidently placed the ball on the spot, waited for the goalkeeper to move, and stroked it in. The stadium erupted, but they still needed 1 more goal. With seconds remaining, goalkeeper Marc-André ter Stegen ventured into the PSG box for a last attack. Neymar floated a precise cross into the area. Substitute Sergio Roberto stretched out a toe and volleyed into the net. Barcelona won 6-1, and the aggregate score was 6-5, fans poured down the stands hugging strangers, some crying in disbelief. The Guardian described how Neymar, superb throughout, scoring 2, making another and winning a penalty, turned an impossible situation into reality. He had predicted they had a 1% chance and seized it. Many analysts called it the greatest comeback in Champions League history. In the dressing room, he knelt in prayer and said he had never experienced such emotion. The season, however, had its bittersweet moments. Barcelona were eliminated in the quarter-finals by Juventus, and they finished second in La Liga. They did win the Copa del Rey again, with Neymar scoring his 100th Barcelona goal in April 2017. Throughout the spring, there were whispers that he was unhappy being the third star behind Messi and Suarez. Reports suggested he wanted a team built around him. Stories of training ground friction circulated, though most were exaggerated. In May, he told friends he loved Barcelona, but also craved a new challenge. On the field, he continued to smile and celebrate with his teammates, but off it, his father was meeting with PSG officials. In August 2017, he shocked the football world by triggering his 222 million release clause and joining Paris Saint-Germain. Barcelona took legal action over a loyalty bonus, and the separation was acrimonious. For many fans, his departure felt like a heartbreak. For Neymar, it was the start of a new chapter. In retrospect, Neymar's Barcelona era was a whirlwind of joy, artistry, controversy, and growth. He arrived as a young prodigy and matured into a complete forward who could both score and create. Over 4 seasons, he scored 105 goals in 86 appearances and won 8 trophies, including 2 La Ligas, 3 Copas del Rey, a Spanish Super Cup, a Champions League, and a Club World Cup. His partnership with Messi and Suarez produced some of the most thrilling football the Camp Nou has ever witnessed. He also learned to handle pressure, adapt to new cultures, and face legal challenges. The memory of his grin after sliding in that third goal in Berlin and the image of him lifting Sergi Roberto in March 2017 will forever be part of Barcelona's rich tapestry. For the fans who watched him week after week, his time in Catalonia was not just about statistics, it was about the feeling of anticipation when he touched the ball, the gasp before a dribble, the roar after a goal. That is why, even after he left, many continued to whisper that he might one day return. Away from the pitch, life in Barcelona shaped Neymar in ways statistics cannot capture. He settled in Castelldefels, a quiet town near the Mediterranean. The house he chose sat on a hill overlooking the sea, and from his terrace he could see fishing boats bobbing in the morning light. His mother, Nadine, cooked Brazilian meals to help him feel at home, but he also embraced Spanish cuisine. He frequented the tapas bars of the Gothic Quarter, ordering paella and patatas bravas, and he developed a fondness for jamón ibérico. He took Spanish lessons with a tutor, diligently practicing verbs and pronunciation so he could understand his coach's instructions. In the evenings, he watched Catalan television with subtitles, laughing at comedy shows even when he didn't understand all the jokes. He visited the Sagrada Familia with his sister Rafaela and marveled at Gaudi's spires, sharing photos on social media. He also spent time at the beach in Sitges, where the waves reminded him of Brazil. When he missed home, he called his grandmother and described the vibrant markets of La Bojeria. Bit by bit, Catalonia became a second home. Training at Barcelona's Ciutat Esportiva was an education. Under Luis Enrique's staff, sessions started early. Neymar would arrive at dawn, passing fields where La Masia's youngsters were already warming up. In the gym, he lifted weights under the watchful eye of trainers, focusing on leg strength to withstand tackles. On the pitch, he practiced passing triangles with Xavi and Andres Iniesta, masters of positioning. They taught him subtle cues, when to release the ball with one touch, when to hold it, and invite pressure before dribbling away. He learned to scan the field before receiving a pass, to always know where Messi was. Sometimes he joined the BUT team sessions to help them refine their pressing system, and the youngsters were starstruck to play alongside him. He also spent time perfecting free kicks, staying after training to curl balls over a wall of mannequins. On more relaxed days, he stayed back to play foot volley with Dani Alves and Rafinha, laughing as they executed acrobatic overhead kicks. These routines built his stamina and broadened his understanding of European football. The Spanish media, always hungry for stories, chronicled his every move. When he dyed his hair blonde before a match, front pages debated whether he was losing focus. After each victory, columnists wrote poems about his dribbles. During a lean stretch, when he didn't score for several games, commentators wondered if he was distracted by fame. Neymar learned to ignore the noise and draw strength from the support of his family. His parents attended most home matches, seated near the president, Josep Maria Bartomeu. His sister often wore a number 11 jersey and cheered so loudly that players could hear her from the pitch. He spoke with his father after training sessions, receiving advice not only about football, but about life. "Remember what we taught you," his father would say. "Play with joy and respect." Neymar's first season might have ended without a league or Champions League trophy, but there were nights when he looked like the future of Barcelona. After the 2013 hat-trick against Celtic, he spent hours signing autographs for young fans near the tunnel. One little boy gave him a drawing of himself in a Barcelona shirt, and Neymar stuck it on his locker as a reminder of who he played for. He began appearing in charity events hosted by the club. In December, he joined his teammates in visiting children at local hospitals, bringing jerseys and footballs. The visits were emotional. Some children had shaved their heads like him, and others asked him to perform stepovers in the hospital corridors. Seeing their smiles humbled him. He also launched his Instituto Progetto Neymar branch in Barcelona, organizing futsal clinics for underprivileged youth and emphasizing values like respect and discipline. Echoing the mission of his institute in Brazil, this philanthropic work allowed him to connect with the community on a deeper level. When the 2014-15 season kicked off, Neymar felt a sense of destiny. Luis Enrique's summer training had been intense, sprint drills in the midday heat, tactical chalkboard sessions in the evenings. Neymar spent extra time building chemistry with Suarez, who joined training after his suspension. They would stay after practice, working on diagonal runs and 1-2 passes. He learned to anticipate Suarez's movement by watching his shoulders. He knew that if Suarez opened up his body, he wanted a through ball, whereas if he dropped his shoulder, he expected a return pass. The synergy extended beyond the pitch. The two families often dined together at Suarez's home, where the Uruguayan's wife cooked asados, and Neymar showed off his Brazilian barbecue skills. Their children played together in the garden, forging friendships that mirrored their father's partnership on the field. Messi, more reserved, joined occasionally, sharing mate tea and quietly observing. These off-field bonds manifested in an almost telepathic connection during matches. When Neymar cut inside from the left, he didn't even need to look up to know where Messi or Suarez would be. Throughout the 2014-15 campaign, every match seemed to create a highlight. Away at Paris Saint-Germain in the group stage, Neymar silenced the Parc des Princes by nutmegging a defender and finishing calmly. At the Camp Nou, he chipped the goalkeeper from the edge of the box, prompting commentators to recall Ronaldinho's lob years earlier. In La Liga, he scored a volley against Villarreal that left even opposition fans applauding. Yet it wasn't only the goals that defined him. He tracked back to help Alba defend, slid into tackles, and celebrated others' goals as if they were his own. He danced after Messi scored, pointing at the Argentine to share credit. When a teammate missed a chance, he offered a reassuring pat on the back. The synergy within the team blossomed. Reporters dubbed it La Sonrisa, the smile, because the players seemed to genuinely enjoy playing together. As wins accumulated, the team gained momentum. They overran Real Madrid 2-1 in March, with Neymar drawing a penalty. They thrashed Getafe 6-0, with him scoring an audacious back-a-heel. Each victory seemed to feed into a larger narrative that this Barcelona was building towards greatness. The build-up to the 2015 Champions League final offered glimpses of the pressure the players faced. In Berlin, journalists crowded the team hotel. Neymar roomed with Dani Alves, his longtime friend, and the duo listened to Brazilian music to calm their nerves. On the morning of the match, they walked around the Olympic Stadium field, taking in its history and imagining themselves making history. In the dressing room before kick-off, Luis Enrique's speech emphasized staying true to their style. Quick passing, relentless pressing, fearless attacks. Neymar sat silently, headphones on, eyes closed, visualizing goals. When the game began, he felt a surge of adrenaline. Scoring the third goal late in stoppage time was a blur. He remembers running the length of the field, his legs burning, his lungs on fire, yet he felt like he was floating. After sliding the ball past the goalkeeper, he tore off his shirt, arms outstretched, sliding on his knees while screaming towards the fans. In that moment, he thought of his father selling junk to buy him boots, his mother washing his kit by hand, his sister cheering in the stands. At night after the celebrations, he lay in bed, unable to sleep, replaying the goal in his mind and thinking about the weight of the medal around his neck. In the months that followed, the success of 2015 presented new obstacles. Opponents devised strategies to neutralize the MSN. Some teams sat deep with two banks of four, forcing Barcelona to play through crowded midfields. Others fouled Neymar repeatedly to disrupt his rhythm. The physical toll on him increased. Bruises and minor knocks became weekly occurrences. He adopted ice baths and yoga to recover. The press speculated that his flamboyant dribbles provoked tackles, prompting debates about whether he should tone down his style. Neymar responded by emphasizing that entertaining the crowd was part of who he was. He recalled the streets of Praia Grande and the futsal courts where creativity was celebrated. "Football is joy," he told reporters after one match, echoing his father's words. The 2015-16 season also saw Neymar take on more responsibility off the field. He led team talks when Messi was injured, reminding his colleagues that they were still Barcelona and could beat anyone. Younger players like Sergi Roberto and Munir El Haddadi gravitated towards him, asking for advice about how to handle fame. He told them to keep their circle small and to focus on football. Meanwhile, he navigated a busy commercial schedule. Brands from around the world wanted him as their ambassador. He flew to China for a promotional event during a break and to Brazil for his sister's birthday, each trip requiring careful planning to avoid fatigue. Journalists sometimes criticized his lifestyle, but his performances on the pitch silenced most doubters. By the end of the season, he had scored and assisted in almost equal measure, showing that he could be a playmaker as well as a finisher. Despite falling short in the Champions League, the team's domestic success, winning La Liga and the Copa del Rey, validated their resilience. Yet 2016 also brought legal challenges. Spanish prosecutors pressed corruption charges related to his transfer. While much of the legal jargon was handled by lawyers, Neymar had to attend court hearings. Cameras flashed as he arrived at court in a suit, and pundits speculated about potential sentences. The stress showed at times. He admitted in an interview that he felt drained, but insisted he was innocent. Barcelona's board publicly supported him, though privately they were concerned about the club's image. The case highlighted the complex financial web around modern football transfers, where agents, investment funds and clubs compete for a share. For Neymar, it was an abrupt reminder that football is also a business. He resolved to focus on the pitch and let his lawyers handle the rest. When he signed the contract extension in July 2016, he hoped it would put questions about his future to bed. As the 2016-17 season progressed, speculation about Neymar's future returned. His release clause made him one of the few players other clubs could buy, provided they were willing to pay a record fee. Articles linked him to Paris Saint-Germain, suggesting that he wanted to step out of Messi's shadow. He publicly shrugged off the rumours, declaring that he was happy at Barcelona, but behind closed doors his father was listening to offers. On the pitch, he continued to create moments of beauty. A delicate lob over the Villarreal goalkeeper, a burst past two defenders, followed by a low cross for Suarez. In January 2017, he scored a late free kick against Villarreal that preserved the draw. He celebrated by running to the bench and hugging Luis Enrique. That embrace hinted at their bond despite occasional disagreements. During training, there had been heated conversations between star players and coach as they debated tactics, but the mutual respect remained. When he scored his 100th goal for Barcelona in April 2017, he held up 3 fingers for each member of the MSN and pointed to the crowd as if to thank them for their support. The days leading up to the second leg against Paris Saint-Germain in March 27 were some of the most intense of his career. Barcelona were written off after the 4-0 defeat in Paris. In training, they practiced attacking patterns relentlessly, with Luis Enrique emphasizing wide play and quick transitions. Neymar stayed late to practice free kicks. He called former teammate Xavi for advice, and Xavi reminded him of the importance of belief. The night before the game, he wrote a motivational message on his bathroom mirror: "We can do it." On match day, he arrived at the stadium early, listening to gospel music to calm his nerves. When Suarez scored early, he felt hope. When Cavani scored to make it 3-1 on aggregate, his heart sank, but he kept repeating the mantra in his head. As the minutes ticked away, he kept pushing, demanding the ball, dribbling at defenders. The free kick he curled into the top corner came from hours of practice. He placed the ball carefully, took 3 strides and struck it perfectly over the wall, glancing up just in time to see it dip under the bar. The penalty 2 minutes later required nerves of steel. He held his breath before striking and exhaled only after the net bulged. The final cross to Sergio Roberto was instinctive. He knew where to put it because he had studied such situations in training. When the ball hit the net, he sprinted away, arms flailing, tears streaming down his face. Later he described that 7-minute spell as the most emotional of his life, surpassing even his Copa Libertadores and Champions League victories. After the miracle of La Remontada, Barcelona's season still ended in disappointment in Europe. Juventus, disciplined and physical, shut them down in the quarter-finals. In La Liga, they could not catch Real Madrid. The Copa del Rey final offered some redemption, and Neymar scored as Barcelona beat Alaves. But the sense that the cycle was ending lingered. Luis Enrique announced his departure at the end of the season, citing exhaustion. Fans on social media started arguing about who should replace him and how the team should evolve. In this uncertain atmosphere, news broke that Paris Saint-Germain were willing to pay Neymar's buyout clause. The numbers were astronomical, 222 million. At first, many supporters dismissed the reports as rumours. But then Neymar failed to respond publicly, and his father was seen meeting with PSG's sporting director. In August, he informed the club of his desire to leave. On 3rd August, he visited the training ground to say goodbye to teammates, hugging Messi, who whispered something only they know. The club filed a lawsuit to recover a loyalty bonus, and he responded with his own legal claim. The move to PSG was completed days later, ending his Barcelona chapter abruptly. Although the separation was abrupt, Neymar has often spoken warmly about his time in Catalonia. In interviews, he has described Barcelona as a school that taught him discipline, teamwork, and humility. He has said that sharing a dressing room with Messi and Iniesta was an honor, and that he learned as much from them off the field as he did on it. The lessons in pressing, positional play, and patience shaped the player he would become. Even after he left, he remained in contact with former teammates, sending messages after big wins. In September 2019, he visited the Camp Nou as a PSG player, and the crowd's reaction was a mix of boos and applause. He felt emotional returning to the pitch where he had experienced so many highs. He looked up at the stands, seeing fans holding signs with his name, and realized how deeply those 4 years had woven him into the club's history. Neymar's Barcelona era also left a lasting legacy in the city itself. The futsal clinics he sponsored in the outskirts continued to operate, providing opportunities for local kids. A mural of him celebrating a goal remained in a youth center in L'Hospitalet as a symbol of aspiration. He donated to a hospital specializing in pediatric cancer treatment, funding research and equipment. Many residents remember seeing him jogging along the beach at dawn, earphones in, bodyguards keeping a respectful distance, as he prepared for another day of training. To them, he was not just a footballer, but a young man embracing their culture. When he departed, local papers wrote thank you notes, praising his contributions and wishing him luck. From the perspective of global football, Neymar's Barcelona years demonstrated the power of synergy. He arrived as a prodigy known for individual brilliance and left as a refined team player. The MSN trio scored over 100 goals in each of the seasons they played together, and they helped Barcelona reclaim the treble. Their fluid exchanges inspired coaches around the world to experiment with flexible front threes. Young players in Brazil and elsewhere mimicked their celebrations and moves. Economically, his transfer and subsequent legal disputes highlighted the complexity of modern football contracts. Emotionally, his departure was a reminder that the sport is not only about loyalty, but also about personal ambition and business. His story encourages reflection on how players navigate careers, balancing personal goals, family needs, and the expectations of millions of fans. In the end, the memory of Neymar gliding past defenders in the Barcelona kit remains vivid. Whether it was his first classical goal, his hat-trick against Celtic, his decisive strike in the Champions League final, or his miraculous performance against PSG, each moment is etched into the club's folklore. The narrative of his time in Barcelona is not linear. It's a tapestry woven with triumphs and trials, laughter and tears. For those who listen to the calm voice narrating this story, perhaps in the quiet moments before sleep, it's a reminder that even the brightest stars are shaped by the environments they inhabit and the people who surround them. Neymar's journey through Barcelona was one of transformation, and as he continues his career elsewhere, the echoes of those Catalan nights will always accompany him. While at Barcelona, Neymar remained a pillar for Brazil's national team, and the experiences he gained in Spain fed directly into his international performances. In June 2013, he helped Brazil win the Confederations Cup, scoring in the final and earning the tournament's golden ball. A year later, during the 2014 World Cup on home soil, his tournament ended painfully when a Colombian defender's knee struck his back and fractured a vertebra. Watching from his home in Rio wearing a body brace, he cried as Brazil were thrashed 7-1 by Germany in the semi-final. The injury reminded him that glory and heartbreak are often intertwined. When he returned to Barcelona for the 2014-15 season, he carried with him the weight of Brazil's disappointment and a determination to write new stories. Those stories culminated not only in club success, but also in the 2016 Olympic Games. In August 2016, just weeks after signing his new contract, he captained Brazil's U023 team at the Rio Olympics. In the final against Germany, he scored a stunning free kick, and after a tense penalty shootout, he converted the winning kick, delivering Brazil's first Olympic gold medal in men's football. As he celebrated with the Brazilian flag draped across his shoulders, he thought about how his time in Barcelona had prepared him for moments like this: the composure under pressure, the leadership, the belief that even past heartbreaks could lead to future triumphs. His time in Catalonia also influenced a generation of young footballers. Videos of his steepovers and feints flooded social media, and children from Africa to Asia practiced his techniques on dusty pitches and in alleyways. Coaches began incorporating elements of the MSN interplay into youth training. Nike and other brands used his image to sell boots and training equipment, but beyond the marketing was a genuine inspiration. For many boys and girls, Neymar represented the possibility that someone from humble beginnings could reach the pinnacle of world football and still play with the innocence of a child. His willingness to smile and to dance after scoring encouraged others to express joy rather than suppress it. There were criticisms too. Pundits accused him of diving and theatrics when fouled, and defenders resented his showboating. But his defenders pointed out that artistry and flair have long been integral to Brazilian football. Neymar himself acknowledged that he sometimes exaggerated to draw attention to fouls, but he insisted he always respected opponents. As he matured, he learned to stay on his feet more often, trusting referees and his own resilience. His last season at Barcelona showcased this evolution. He still dribbled past players, but spent less time on the ground and more time setting up teammates. This balance between showmanship and efficiency became one of his hallmarks. When you think about Neymar's Barcelona era from afar, it is easy to focus on statistics and trophies, but the true essence lies in the memories created. There are the sights, the gleaming Camp Nou under floodlights, the mosaic of colored cards held up by fans, spelling Gracie's pep, the green grass flickering under his boots. There are the sounds, the roar of 80,000 voices chanting his name, the click of cameras capturing his smile, the whistle of the wind as he sprinted down the wing. And there are the sensations, the embrace of Messi after a goal, the weight of the Champions League trophy in his hands, the sting of grass burns on his knees after sliding in celebration. These details linger in the minds of those who watched him. Even as he moved on to Paris and later returned to Santos, the Barcelona chapter remains a cherished part of his story. From a distance you might hear the waves of the Mediterranean or the cheers from La Liga crowds, and for a moment you could close your eyes and picture Neymar weaving through defenders once more, his head bobbing in rhythm with the ball, his smile reflecting the joy that football brings. Neymar's first step onto the stage at the Parc des Princes was not just a press conference but a ritual. The club had erected a temporary platform in the middle of the pitch, draped in red and blue, flanked by fireworks ready to ignite. He walked out through a tunnel, his new number 10 shirt in one hand and his father's hand on his shoulder. Across the city, the Eiffel Tower glimmered. Back in Barcelona, fans argued and speculated. He faced reporters and insisted that his transfer was about heart and challenge, not money. He spoke of wanting his family to be happy and of craving new trophies. He reminded them that he weighed only 69 kg. Being the most expensive player in the world did not feel like a physical burden to him. As Nasser Al-Khelaifi extolled him as an idol whose presence increased the club's value by $500 million, Neymar thought of his mother clutching a rosary back home. It was a surreal blend of business and dreams, of politics and sport, the kind of day that finds its way into bedtime stories and football folklore. For weeks before the move, speculation had dominated every conversation in the Catalan capital. Would he really leave the comfort of Lionel Messi's shadow? Would he trade Camp Nou's warm Mediterranean afternoons for Parisian winters? In those final days, he had walked through Barcelona's streets anonymously in a hooded sweatshirt, listening to buskers and feeling a tug in his chest. He recalled arriving there at 21, naive and hungry, and leaving with Champions League and La Liga medals glistening at home. He loved the city's food and its culture, and he considered Messi a brother. But he also longed to lead, to be the axis around which a team revolves. As he boarded a private jet to Paris with his family, he sat by the window, watching the landscape transform from Catalan hills to Pyrenean peaks, and finally to the patchwork of fields near Orly Airport. He took a deep breath and whispered a prayer. Around him, his father, Neymar Jr, and his agent whispered about clauses and lawyers. But he focused on the adventure ahead. Settling in Paris required adaptation beyond the pitch. The language barrier, though eased by his school French classes, often led to comedic misunderstandings. He once ordered escargots at a bistro thinking they were a type of pasta, and he laughed when his teammates teased him. He explored the city like a tourist, marveling at the Louvre for his paintings, driving along the Champs-Élysées and falling in love with quiet cobblestone streets in Montmartre. He rented an apartment overlooking the Seine, where the sight of the river's lazy loops reminded him of the winding Tietê back home. With him came a small entourage, his mother, Nadine, his sister, Raffaella, his son, Davy Luca, and some friends. They made Parisian life feel like a transplanted slice of Brazil, complete with home-cooked feijoada and samba parties. For a young man who had spent his entire professional life under the microscope, this domestic stability offered comfort. PSG's training facility in Saint-Germain-en-Laye became his new workplace. The mood there was markedly different from Barcelona's Ciutat Esportiva. The squad was international and eclectic. Cavani, the Uruguayan workhorse, Thiago Silva, his compatriot and mentor, and young Mbappe, whose teenage swagger belied maturity beyond his years. Under coach Unai Emery, sessions were intense and long. Neymar relished the physical challenge, adding bulk to his frame to better withstand Ligue 1 defenders. He also embraced leadership. When teenage youth players looked to him with awe, he remembered his own days as a Santos ball boy, chasing after Robinho and Diego. He offered advice, shared jokes, and insisted on small games of futsal to retain their Brazilian jinga. Early on, he and Cavani clashed publicly over who would take penalties, an incident blown out of proportion by the media. Behind closed doors, they shared métis and resolved their differences. Such episodes taught Neymar the delicate balance between ego and team harmony. The start of the 2017 season seemed like a film. In his league debut, he scored and assisted, gliding past defenders as though skating on glass. Opposition fullbacks took turns hacking at his ankles, but he popped up smiling and asked for more. In a Champions League group match at Celtic Park, he mesmerized the Scottish crowd with audacious passes and interplay with Mbappe. The duo's speed and improvisation made them appear telepathic. Off the field, he made headlines for his fashion choices. One day arriving at training in an electric blue suit, another sporting a cap emblazoned with his sister's face. He adopted the city's fashion forwardness without losing his own flamboyance. When the French press labelled him a showman, he responded by playing even better, winking at cameras after scoring and performing dance routines with Dani Alves. Even as he thrived, the spectre of injury loomed. In February 2018, while playing at home against Olympique Marseille, he twisted awkwardly on the Parc des Princes-Piches. The pain was immediate and severe. Physicians diagnosed a broken fifth metatarsal and advised surgery. He flew to Belo Horizonte to be operated on by Rodrigo Lasma, the same doctor who had treated him in 2014. The surgery was a success, but the recovery tested his patience. Forced to wear a protective boot for weeks, He filled his days with physiotherapy, video games, and long conversations with his father about life after football. At night, he dreamed of stepping back onto the field, the feel of the ball tethered to his foot. The layoff meant he missed the remainder of the domestic season and approached the 2018 World Cup lacking match sharpness. In Russia, he found glimpses of his old self, scoring against Mexico and Serbia, but the injury still nagged. Brazil bowed out to Belgium in the quarter-finals, and critics pounced on his theatrics. He returned to Paris humbled and more determined to prove his resilience. Recovery brought introspection. Neymar realized he needed to balance his effervescent style with robustness. He improved his diet, incorporated yoga and Pilates to strengthen his core, and practiced mental visualization. He also deepened his involvement with the Instituto Projeto Neymar Jr, supporting programs that provide education and sports opportunities for children. He visited the Institute Incognito, blending with kids, sharing drills and hugging mothers who thanked him for scholarships. These visits grounded him, reminding him that football success is fleeting, but community impact endures. He also reflected on his identity beyond the pitch. Music had always been a passion. He frequently joined friends to record playful songs, and he toyed with the idea of releasing an album. Ultimately, he chose to focus on football, but the creative outlet refreshed him. During the 2018-17 season, PSG appointed Thomas Tuchel, a tactically astute German coach. Tuchel asked Neymar to play both winger and number 10, directing attacks while also pressing. At first, the Brazilian struggled to fit into the rigid structure. His instinct was to dribble and improvise, while Tuchel emphasized positional discipline. However, their mutual respect grew. Neymar appreciated Tuchel's ability to connect personally with players. The coach often joked with him in Portuguese. That season he again shone domestically, orchestrating moves with Mbappé and Di Maria, scoring hat-tricks and delivering 360 U-degree turns that left defenders flailing. PSG cruised through the league and the Coupe de France. Yet in February 2019 he fractured his metatarsal again, missing crucial Champions League knockout matches. Without him, PSG suffered another shock exit. The narrative of injury-prone star gained momentum, adding pressure on his shoulders. Off-field, he faced a sexual assault allegation that led Nike to sever ties. He denied the accusation, and prosecutors later dropped the case. The scrutiny, however, made him more guarded in public and more reliant on his inner circle. By the summer of 2019, rumors swirled that Neymar wanted to return to Barcelona. He missed the camaraderie of Messi and Suarez. He longed for the freedom of La Liga. He was tired of being booed for his injuries. Yet no transfer materialized. He began the 2019-80 season under a cloud of mixed emotions. Then came the pandemic. As the world shut down, footballers found themselves training alone in living rooms. Neymar spent lockdown at his mansion near Rio de Janeiro, hosting virtual workouts with PSG's fitness coach and live streaming his sessions with Mbappé to lighten fans' spirits. He also rediscovered the simple joys of playing barefoot with his son in the backyard. When football resumed in the summer, he returned to Paris rejuvenated. The Champions League tournament, compressed into a mini-tournament in Lisbon, became a stage for his redemption. Against Atalanta in the quarter-finals, he produced a dazzling performance, dribbling through defenders and assisting 2 late goals. In the semi-final against RB Leipzig, he and Mbappé combined fluidly to orchestrate a 3-1 victory, an assertive team display that exercised PSG's past collapses. In the final against Bayern, he created chances and nearly scored, but PSG lost 1-0. Though heartbroken, Neymar walked off with his head high, tears glistening, thankful for having dragged his team into the rarefied air of European finals. The 2021 campaign saw Neymar sign a new contract, committing to PSG until 2025. He publicly declared his love for the club and his desire to make history. At training, he worked closely with young forwards, mentoring them on technique and mentality. He also broke records, becoming the fastest player to reach 50 League One goals and the first player to score 20 Champions League goals for 2 different clubs. Off the pitch, he took up French lessons seriously, giving interviews in his newly improved accent. He also immersed himself in Parisian philanthropic circles, attending galas for children's hospitals and HIV awareness. When he extended his contract, fans celebrated with a mural in Saint-Denis depicting him with angel wings. Although PSG failed in the Champions League that season, losing in the semi-final to Manchester City, Neymar's bond with the city deepened. Summer 2021 brought the shock of Lionel Messi's departure from Barcelona and his reunion with Neymar. Their first training session together at PSG was broadcast live to millions. Neymar hugged Messi, laughing and calling him Hermano. The pair, joined by Mbappe, promised fireworks. Under Mauricio Pochettino, the attacking trio took time to find rhythm. Early games were disjointed, as each player instinctively drifted into the same pockets, but slowly their roles crystallized. Mbappe as the lightning-quick striker, Messi as the orchestrator, Neymar oscillating between midfield and wing. Neymar scored his 400th career goal and his 100th for PSG with a curler into the top corner against Bordeaux. He pointed to the sky and kissed his tattoo of his sister's name. PSG reclaimed the League One title for a record-dying 10th time, though their Champions League hopes died in the round of 16. Throughout the season, fans debated whether the trio could replicate the MSN magic of Barcelona. Neymar took these critiques as motivation, reminding himself that even the greatest artists need time to harmonize. The 2022-23 season started with a bang. Ware of criticism about his fitness, Neymar returned from vacation lean and explosive. Under coach Christophe Galtier, he was given the freedom of a roving playmaker. In his first league games, he scored from free kicks, converted penalties, and set up teammates with no-look passes. He and Messi combined on telepathic give-and-go sequences. Mbappe sprinted onto their through balls. His form earned him the August Player of the Month award. Yet once again, injuries intervened. In February 2023, he suffered a severe ankle sprain, damaging ligaments and requiring surgery. Doctors inserted screws into his ankle to stabilize it. He faced months of rehab again. In his absence, PSG's Champions League campaign floundered and fans vented frustration by jeering outside the training ground. Neymar responded with humility. He posted messages urging unity, donated to local hospitals, and channeled his energy into recovery. He also watched his younger teammates step up, realizing that his role might shift from central star to experienced guide. By May 2023, whispers about his future grew louder. The club looked toward a younger, more physically robust squad. Neymar, 31, understood the football cycle. Though he loved Paris, he also felt the lure of new horizons. Discussions with his father and advisors produced various scenarios. Barcelona expressed interest, but their finances were precarious. Premier League clubs called, yet the idea of England's winter rains dampened his enthusiasm. Meanwhile, the Saudi Pro League, flush with investment, sought marquee stars. Al Hilal approached with a 2-year contract worth around 160 million and a transfer fee of roughly 90 million. After weighing the pros and cons, Neymar decided to accept. He framed it not just as a payday, but as a role in globalizing football. He would become an ambassador for the sport in a new region. PSG fans, though saddened, understood his decision. They honored him with a tifo at his final home game, displaying a giant banner reading "Obrigado, Neymar." The move to Saudi Arabia was a cultural shift. In Riyadh, he was greeted at the airport by thousands of fans waving Al Hilal flags and chanting his name. The club organized a ceremony at King Fahd Stadium, complete with blue smoke, laser lights, and traditional dance. Neymar's introduction video interspersed highlights of his career with shots of Riyadh's gleaming skyline. He learned to greet dignitaries with a hand over his heart and to appreciate Arabic hospitality. Lavish dinners that lasted hours, where conversation flowed even if he only understood half of it. He moved into a villa in a gated community, decorated it with Brazilian art, and installed a futsal court in the backyard. He hired a personal chef and a Portuguese teacher. On the pitch, he fit into Al Hilal's attack with ease, playing alongside names such as Salem Al-Dawsari and Malcolm. In his debut, he created a goal with a clever back heel. A few weeks later, he scored his first goal with a sweeping shot that curled into the far corner. The stadium erupted. Fans at home in Brazil woke up early to watch, writing messages of support. Yet just as he began to find rhythm, tragedy struck. On 17 October 2023, Brazil faced Uruguay in a World Cup qualifier in Montevideo. Late in the first half, Neymar attempted to shield the ball, collided with Nicolás de la Cruz, and twisted his left knee badly. He screamed in pain and pounded the turf. Team doctors rushed to him, and after several minutes he was taken off on a stretcher, tears streaming down his face. Al Hilal confirmed that he had torn the anterior cruciate ligament and meniscus. Brazil's Football Confederation announced he would undergo surgery and embark on a long rehabilitation. The news reverberated across the world. Commentators noted his history of foot and ankle injuries and worried this might be career-ending. Neymar, however, refused to let despair define him. In a message from his hospital bed, he thanked fans for their prayers and promised to return stronger. Recovery from an ACL tear is a grueling process. After surgery, Neymar spent 6 weeks on crutches. Each step was careful and slow. He engaged in physiotherapy sessions twice a day, focusing on regaining mobility and strength. Al Hilal's medical staff coordinated with Brazil's doctors to design his program. He also worked with psychologists to cope with the mental strain. His family visited frequently. Friends flew in to cheer him up. He used the downtime to learn Arabic phrases, read books about resilience, and plan new initiatives for his institute. He explored Riyadh's cultural heritage, visiting the National Museum and ancient Diriyah, absorbing the stories of another history of growth and adaptation. By mid-D224, he began light jogging. He posted a video of himself juggling a ball with one foot, accompanied by a caption, "One day closer." In October 2024, he returned to training and even played a cameo in a league match. His touches were tentative but sure, his eyes bright with hope. However, a minor hamstring strain soon followed. It was not serious, but it reminded him of his body's fragility. Meanwhile, off the field, he was honored with a Player Career Award at the Globe Soccer Awards in Dubai. The ceremony celebrated his contributions to the sport and his philanthropic work. On stage, he thanked God, his family, his coaches and fans across the world. When he looked out at the audience and saw legends like Paolo Maldini and Didier Drogba applauding, he felt an imposter syndrome and gratitude swirl. He thought of the skinny boy juggling oranges on Brazilian beaches and marveled at how far he had come. By January 2025, he and Al Hilal decided to part ways. The club was building for the future, and Neymar desired a project that resonated more personally. News of his return to Santos broke like a nostalgic wave. Social media filled with videos of his teenage goals at the Vila Belmiro and montages of his stepovers. On 30 January 2025, he signed for his boyhood club. The announcement event at the stadium was emotional. Children from his institute lined the tunnel, forming a guard of honor. When he walked out, he placed his hand over the crest and looked up at the stands. The fans, many of whom had never seen him play live for Santos, screamed his name. He gave a speech about coming home, saying he wanted to repay the club and community that shaped him. He wore the number 10, a jersey once worn by Pelé. That weight felt different now, like a snuggled sweater rather than a burden. In his first match on 6 February, the touches were rusty, but glimpses of his genius appeared. 10 days later, he took a penalty with his characteristic hop and finish, scoring his first goal since returning. His teammates piled on him, hugging and laughing. He smiled widely, soaking in the chorus of cheers. Playing in Brazil again required adjusting to a different tempo. The Brasileirão is known for its physicality, humidity, and unpredictable pitches. Neymar found himself dribbling around divots and playing at noon under sweltering heat. He also noticed the passion of Brazilian supporters up close, fans waiting outside the training ground with gifts, children running after team buses, elderly women reciting prayers. He embraced it all. He practiced on the same fields where he once chased pigeons as a boy, now wearing a body full of scars and experiences. He revisited his childhood home in Praia Grande with his son, pointing out where he used to practice free kicks into the side of a neighbor's house. Davy Luca giggled, then tried his own free kick, hitting the same wall. Neymar laughed and hugged his son. On the pitch, his impact grew as the season progressed. He regained match fitness, shedding rust and regaining acceleration. He scored curling free kicks, chipped goalkeepers, and threaded passes through narrow gaps. He celebrated each goal with joy, sometimes replicating his old trois dance with teammates. Off the ball, he tracked back, guided young players, and accepted being substituted to manage his body. In April, he celebrated his 100th match at Villa Belmiro. The club presented him with a framed jersey. He gave a speech thanking the fans for their unconditional love. In the final 5 matches, he netted 5 goals, including a hat-trick in December 2025 that secured Santos's top-flight status. After the final whistle of that game, he knelt on the pitch, pointing to the sky in gratitude. However, his knee still troubled him. After the season, swelling and pain prompted doctors to recommend arthroscopic surgery. In December 2025, he underwent the procedure to repair a medial meniscus injury. The arthroscopy was performed by Brazil national team doctor Rodrigo Lasmar, who had become a familiar figure in his life. The surgery was successful. From the hospital, he sent a message to fans. Another chapter, another recovery. I'll be back because I live for this. He posted a photo of himself smiling in bed with his knee wrapped. The next week he signed a new contract with Santos until the end of 2026. In a video, he called Santos his home and said he wanted to achieve the remaining dreams with the club. He emphasized his goal of returning to the Brazil national team and playing in the 2026 World Cup. With his contract secured, Neymar's preparations for 2026 began. Rehab sessions focused on strengthening his knee and preserving mobility. He often trained alone at dawn, running laps around the empty stadium, then joined his teammates for tactical drills later. He adopted a strict diet, cutting out sugar and focusing on lean protein and vegetables. He incorporated meditation and breathing techniques to manage stress. On social media, he shared glimpses of this process: early morning sunrise runs, sweaty gym selfies, clips of him juggling a ball while balancing on a Bosu ball. Each post ended with the hashtag #Rumo Hexa Road to the Sixth, referencing Brazil's quest for a 6th World Cup. His life outside football also flourished. He continued to expand the Instituto Projeto Neymar Jr. Over the years, the institute had grown from a small community center to a sprawling campus with classrooms, sports courts, a library, and a theater. Its mission, is to promote socio-educational development, providing children and their families with access to education, culture, health and sport. The Institute emphasizes values like commitment, discipline, respect and responsibility. Neymar visited regularly, sometimes surprising children by showing up to play futsal. He financed scholarships for students to attend university, supported art programs, and launched a girls' football league. During the pandemic, he distributed food baskets to families in need. In 2025, he announced a plan to build satellite campuses across Brazil, ensuring more children benefit. "Football gave me everything," he told a crowd of parents at the Institute. "Now it's my turn to give back." These words resonated with him as much as his goals on the field. He also ventured into business. He invested in technology startups and fashion lines, launched a line of gaming equipment with his logo, and partnered with streaming platforms to produce documentaries about Brazilian street football. He continued to pursue music privately, recording songs with friends, including a charity single. Yet he remained careful to prioritize his football obligations. He said he learned from past controversies that focus is essential. When asked about his personal life, he expressed pride in his son's growth and his close relationship with his parents. He also revealed that he spends evenings reading biographies of athletes, books on psychology and spiritual texts. "I learn from everyone," he told an interviewer, "from Pelé to Paulo Coelho." As Brazil's manager, Carlo Ancelotti prepared for the 2026 World Cup. He kept an eye on Neymar's progress. In public, he praised the star's talent, but emphasized that only fit players would be selected. This motivated Neymar further. He watched Brazil's friendly matches with critical interest, picturing himself combining with Vinicius Jr, Rodrigo, and Endrick. He analyzed opponents in Group C, Scotland, Morocco and Haiti, imagining how he could exploit their weaknesses. He communicated regularly with national team staff, sending updates on his rehabilitation. The idea of ending his international career on a world stage fueled his workouts. In early 2026, he participated in Santos's pre-e-season training camp. Each session was monitored by medical staff who ensured his knee responded well. Young players looked at him with respect. Some had his posters on their bedroom walls. Now they shared the locker room with him. He offered them tips on controlling nerves and managing fame. He told them about the penalty incident with Cavani, about the heartbreak of Lisbon, and the adulation of Paris. His stories, delivered softly under the shade of a training center veranda, were instructive and comforting. After practice, he sometimes played table tennis or video games with them, bridging the generational gap. Meanwhile, his relationship with the media evolved. Early in his career, he had loved the spotlight. Later, he resented its intrusions. Now he treated it with measured openness. He granted interviews when he had something meaningful to say, and he used social media deliberately, curating posts that balanced transparency and privacy. He acknowledged mistakes, such as public outbursts at referees or late-night parties, and emphasized learning and growth. He supported social causes, speaking out against racism in football and advocating for mental health awareness. He participated in a documentary highlighting players' struggles with depression and hosted a panel discussing the pressures athletes face. Approaching his mid-30s, Neymar's style on the pitch had evolved. He had lost some of the explosive speed of his youth, but he gained vision and timing. He became a conductor, dictating tempo, finding pockets of space, and releasing passes that split defenses. He rarely attempted the showboating flicks that once defined him unless the situation called for flair to break a deadlock or lighten the atmosphere. He became more responsible off the ball, dropping into midfield to help build play and chase opponents. He rarely completed entire matches, conscious of managing his minutes. Each time he walked off, he would wave to fans and pat his knee as if reassuring them and himself that it was fine. As the 2026 World Cup draws nearer, anticipation builds. Brazil's squad is a blend of youthful exuberance and seasoned experience. Neymar is determined to be part of it. His story, from the favelas of Sao Paulo to the heights of European football and back home to Santos, illustrates a life of circular journeys and constant reinvention. He has endured multiple foot and ankle injuries, a broken vertebra at the 2014 World Cup, and now a reconstructed knee. He has faced allegations and controversies, lost finals, won leagues, moved continents, and built an institute to empower thousands. Each event has left an imprint, thickening his skin and deepening his empathy. If he stands on the global stage one last time in 2026, he will not just represent Brazil, but also every child from Praia Grande who dreams with a ball at their feet. Lying in bed at night in January 2026, he sometimes listens to recordings of ocean waves to fall asleep. He remembers the smell of pine trees at PSG's training ground, the spice of Saudi coffee in Riyadh, the salt in the air on his balcony in Santos. He visualizes his past goals, the header in the 2015 Champions League final, the mazy run against Flamengo, the curling free kick at the Parc des Princes. He smiles at the thought of his journey continuing. When he closes his eyes, he sees a young boy on a dusty pitch chasing a ball as if chasing the horizon. That boy is still inside him, curious and fearless, guiding his steps forward. And he hopes that by telling his story slowly, softly, and honestly, he can lull others to sleep, offering them comfort in his resilience and joy in his artistry.